Hey everyone, and welcome to a deep dive into something a little bit different. We're going to be exploring the concept of human stupidity, not just as like a funny insult, but as a force that really shapes our world. And our guide for this journey is going to be the economist and historian Carlo M. Cipolla and his book, The Basic Laws of Human Stupidity, with a little bit of extra insight from Nassim Nicholas Taleb's foreword to the book.
Cipolla's work is surprisingly relevant even today. He takes a really analytical approach to the topic, almost like he's studying a law of physics. Not just griping about annoying people.
Right, it's not just complaining. So how does he actually define stupidity? It's got to be more than just like making dumb mistakes, right?
Absolutely. Cipolla's definition is very specific. It's laser-focused. He says that stupid actions are actions that harm others and the self,
Yeah.
with zero benefit to anyone. It's pure destruction. Unlike, say, a bandit who at least gains something from their actions.
So it's not about intelligence then, it's about the impact, almost like a negative energy field. This is making me rethink all those times I've called someone stupid. Maybe it was more about the effect of their actions, not their actual IQ.
Exactly. And that actually leads us perfectly into his first law. We always underestimate the amount of stupidity that we'll encounter.
Oh, tell me about it. You think you've seen it all, and then bam, some new level of what were they thinking pops up. So does this mean we're just surrounded by stupidity all the time, no matter where we go?
Well, that's what his second law suggests. Stupidity is evenly distributed across all groups of people, like a universal constant. Cipolla even tested this out at universities, and he found the same percentage of what he called stupid individuals even among Nobel laureates.
Hold on, even among Nobel Prize winners. So no matter how smart or accomplished a group is, there's always going to be that same percentage of, let's call them unintentionally destructive folks. That's both fascinating and kind of terrifying. It makes you wonder, how do we even spot this stupidity if it's not about intelligence?
Well, that's where Cipolla's graph comes in. He visually maps human actions based on gains and losses for those involved.
Okay, I'm a visual learner, so tell me about this graph.
Okay, so imagine 4 quadrants. Intelligent actions, helpless actions, bandit actions, and of course, stupid actions. Each one represents a different outcome for the person acting and the people they affect. For example, Cipolla talks about a shopkeeper who's swindled out of money by a customer. The shopkeeper in this case is in the helpless quadrant because they experience a loss, while the customer is in the bandit quadrant, benefiting from the shopkeeper's loss.
So where do stupid actions end up on this graph?
They cluster in the quadrant where the person acting causes losses to others but also doesn't benefit themselves, often even incurring losses. It's like a vortex of negative outcomes. And what's really interesting is that most people don't consistently act in just one quadrant. We all have our moments of intelligence, helplessness, maybe even a little banditry now and then. But Cipolla argues that stupid actions have this unique clustering effect. They relentlessly result in loss for everyone involved.
Seeing it visualized like that, as the zone of pure loss, makes it all the more alarming. I'm starting to see why Cipolla considered stupidity such a powerful force. It's almost like an invisible hand pushing everyone towards a worse outcome.
Exactly. And that brings us to his third law, which really gets to the heart of what makes stupidity so dangerous.
Okay, I'm ready for law number 3. Hit me with it.
The third law states, a stupid person is a person who causes losses to another person or to a group of persons while himself deriving no gain and even possibly incurring losses.
So it's confirming what we saw on the graph. Stupid actions hurt everyone, including the person doing them. I'm starting to think we've all been in situations where we've witnessed this firsthand. Like you see someone doing something and you just think, what are they even trying to achieve here? This is making things worse for everyone.
Yes. That feeling of bafflement and frustration is usually a good indicator that you're dealing with a stupid action, as Cipolla defines it. And what's so frustrating is that unlike a bandit who's at least predictable in their pursuit of self-interest, stupidity is inherently irrational. It makes it very difficult to anticipate or defend against.
This is starting to feel a bit heavy. If stupidity is this irrational force that causes harm to everyone, including the person acting stupidly, how do we even begin to deal with it? I have a feeling Cipolla's fourth law might offer some insight into that. But before we jump into that, I think we need to take a moment to let all this sink in. We've covered a lot of ground already. From Cipolla's unique definition of stupidity to his visual representation of human actions, and now this third law that really gets to the core of its destructive nature.
You're right, it is a lot to process. And what we've discussed so far is really just the tip of the iceberg. Cipolla's fourth law takes us even deeper, exploring why even the most intelligent people often underestimate the true danger of stupidity.
Okay, listeners, we're going to take a quick pause here. But don't go anywhere. We'll be right back to delve into the fourth law. and uncover why stupidity can be so much more dangerous than we often realize. Welcome back, everyone. We're exploring the often overlooked power of stupidity with Carlo M. Cipolla as our guide. It's funny, we often think of stupidity as something harmless, even comical, but Cipolla really paints a different picture.
Yeah, he definitely challenges our assumptions. And that's where his fourth law comes in,
Ah,
almost like a warning sign.
okay, I'm intrigued. Lay it on us. What does this fourth law say?
It states that non-stupid people always underestimate the damaging power of stupid individuals. In particular, non-stupid people constantly forget that at all times and places and under any circumstances, to deal in, summon, or associate with stupid people infallibly turns out to be a costly mistake.
So even when we're aware of stupidity, we still tend to underestimate its potential to wreak havoc. Why do you think that is?
Well, Cipolla suggests that intelligent people often fall into the trap of assuming everyone operates on some level of logic and reason. It's almost impossible for them to grasp the truly irrational nature of stupidity.
So we try to find a rational explanation for behavior that's fundamentally irrational. Or maybe we think we can outsmart stupid people, use them for our own gain.
Exactly. And that's where things get dangerous. Cipolla argues that this always backfires. He gives historical examples of leaders brilliant in many ways who underestimated the destructive power of those they considered stupid and suffered the consequences.
Oh, wow. Can you give us an example?
Sure. Imagine a ruler who thinks they can manipulate a seemingly less intelligent rival,
Yeesh.
using them as a pawn in their game of power.
Okay, I'm following you.
They assume they can predict and control this rival's actions, not realizing that stupidity doesn't follow the rules of logic or self-interest.
I can see how that could backfire spectacularly. You think you're in control, pulling the strings, and then suddenly the unpredictable nature of stupidity throws everything into chaos.
Precisely. The ruler underestimates how their rival's actions, driven by this force of stupidity, can disrupt plans, create unintended consequences, and ultimately undermine their own position of power.
Okay, that's a sobering thought. So we've explored how this plays out on an individual level, but how does Cipolla explain the impact of stupidity on entire societies? That seems like a whole other level of complexity.
That's where his fifth law, perhaps his most famous insight, comes into play.
All right, I'm ready. Lay it on me. What does the fifth law say?
The fifth law states, a stupid person is the most dangerous type of person.
Wow.
And the corollary, which is often quoted, adds, a stupid person is more dangerous than a bandit.
More dangerous than a bandit. Now that's a statement. Help me understand this.
Think back to Cipolla's definition. Stupidity creates losses for everyone, including the person acting stupidly. Now apply that on a larger scale.
Okay, I see where you're going with this. A bandit at least operates out of self-interest. They're trying to gain something, even if it's at the expense of others.
Right. But a stupid person, according to Cipolla, isn't driven by that same logic of gain. Their actions are destructive, often without any clear purpose. And when that destructive force is amplified by social or political power.
It's like a virus spreading through the system.
Yeah.
Bad decisions leading to more bad decisions, and ultimately everyone suffers. It makes you wonder, is it even possible to create a society that's immune to this stupidity virus?
Yeah, that's a question Cipolla grapples with. He argues that societies in decline don't necessarily have more stupid people. Instead, it's about how that stupid fraction is allowed to operate. If those in power, those who influence decisions that impact everyone, have overtones of stupidity, as he puts it, then the whole system becomes vulnerable.
Overtones of stupidity. It's like they're driving the car, but they've got no idea where they're going, and they're taking everyone else down with them. This raises so many questions for me. For instance, how can we even begin to identify these stupid actions, especially in positions of power, if they're not always driven by logic or self-interest? And if we can identify them, what can we do to mitigate the damage?
Those are excellent questions, and ones that Cipolla unfortunately doesn't give us easy answers to. But his work does offer a framework for thinking about stupidity, for recognizing its patterns and its potential for destruction. And perhaps that awareness is the first step toward finding ways to navigate a world where stupidity is, alas, an inevitable force.
It sounds like we're moving into the territory of, okay, we've diagnosed the problem now, what's that? I'm really curious to hear what takeaways, if any, Cipolla offers us. We'll explore that and maybe even find a glimmer of hope in the final part of this deep dive. Stay with us, listeners. Welcome back, everyone. I have to admit, all this talk about the destructive nature of stupidity has me feeling a bit pessimistic. Is there any hope here, or are we just destined to be victims of this stupidity virus, as I called it earlier?
Yeah, I understand your concern. Cipolla's work can definitely feel bleak at times. But I don't think his intention was to leave us feeling hopeless. He doesn't offer any easy solutions. But he does suggest that understanding stupidity, recognizing its patterns, is the first step towards mitigating its impact.
So knowledge is power, even when it comes to something as irrational as stupidity. It's like the more we understand how it works, the better equipped we are to deal with it, maybe even avoid some of its pitfalls.
Exactly. Think of it like this. If you know there's a contagious virus going around, you're more likely to take precautions to protect yourself.
Right, you wash your hands more often, maybe avoid large crowds, get vaccinated if possible. So in the case of the stupidity virus, what are our preventative measures?
Well, I think one of the most important takeaways from Cipolla's work is the importance of awareness. We need to be able to recognize stupid actions, both in ourselves and in others. And remember, stupidity isn't about intelligence. It's about a pattern of behavior that consistently leads to negative outcomes for everyone involved.
So it's about being more vigilant, more observant of the consequences of actions, and not just assuming that everyone is operating with the same level of logic or good intentions.
Exactly. And once we're able to recognize those patterns, those actions that have the hallmarks of stupidity, as Cipolla defines it, we can start to make more conscious choices about how we engage with the world around us, who we trust, who we give our time and energy to, even how we react in certain situations.
So it's not just about identifying stupidity, it's about how we respond to it, how we protect ourselves from its negative effects. This is starting to feel a bit more empowering. Like, okay, stupidity might be a constant, but we don't have to be passive victims.
That's the spirit. Cipolla doesn't go into a lot of detail about specific strategies,
No.
but I think his work lays the groundwork for developing those strategies.
Mm.
And I think another crucial element is the ability to think critically.
Oh, absolutely. It's like he's giving us this framework for questioning assumptions, for looking beyond the surface and not taking things at face value.
Exactly. We need to be asking ourselves, what are the underlying motivations here? What are the potential consequences, both intended and unintended? And are there hidden costs that we're not seeing? It's about being more discerning, more analytical in how we approach the world.
It's almost like he's saying, don't be a helpless bystander. Be an active participant armed with knowledge and a healthy dose of skepticism.
I think that's a great way to put it. And, even though Cipolla's work deals with a very serious topic, there's a sense of humor that runs through it. I think that's an important reminder that sometimes a little laughter can be the best antidote to the absurdity of it all.
Yeah, you're right. There's something about being able to laugh at the absurdity of stupidity, both in ourselves and in others, that can help us keep things in perspective. So to wrap up this deep dive, it seems like we've come full circle. We started out feeling a bit overwhelmed by the inevitability of stupidity, but we've ended up with some surprisingly practical takeaways.
I agree. Awareness, critical thinking, and perhaps a dash of humor. These are the tools we can use to navigate a world where stupidity, unfortunately, is a constant companion.
Well said. And on that note, we're going to wrap up this deep dive into the surprisingly complex world of human stupidity. We hope you found this exploration as enlightening and thought-provoking as we did. And remember, as Cipolla reminds us, stupidity is a universal phenomenon, so we're all in this together. Keep your eyes open, your mind sharp, and your sense of humor intact. Until next time, keep diving deep and stay curious.